Half a day. Welcome to Coffee with the Candidate. I'm Kate Baltazar Dodge, your host, and I'm so pleased to be joined today by senatorial candidate Joseph J.I. Cruz on the Republican side of the ballot this year. Half a day, J.I., how are you today?
Half a day, Kate, and good morning, and thank you. I'm doing very well. You know, taking part in the stay-at-home order. So, I'm joining you from my home, and so far so good. So I'm doing well. And yourself, how are you doing?
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for asking. We're just going to jump right into the questions today. So, J.I., you were the former chief of police for some years. I know that the question on some people's minds and the voters' minds is why are you running for senator?
Kate, that's a very good question, and thank you for asking me that. I am running for senator because I want to effectuate positive social change. And I use that term because as I look at my last 35 years of my professional experience, it's always been about service, and it's always been about what I can do to serve our people. So whether it was serving our nation or our people or both simultaneously, it's been about that service to our people. You mentioned me as the former chief of police. That was one of the biggest reasons why I took on that job as the former chief of police, to see what I could do to effectuate change in the Guam Police Department, positive change for those in GPD, as well as our residents, and how we can keep them safe. As I look at running for a seat in 36 Guam legislature, I look to take that to that next level and see what I can do to effectuate positive social change based on my experiences from the lowest level, being a street police officer, to being someone out in the field, in the military, all the way up to executive level management, being the executive officer of an infantry battalion, being the chief of police, and understanding all those dynamics. All that coupled with my education, I wanna get into the 36 Guam legislature and effectuate that positive social change for our people, for our community. And that's the reason why I'm running for office, Kate.
Thank you for that. So, if elected to the 36th Guam legislature, what would your first initiative be?
That's another good question, Kate. Thank you for asking me that. I will tell you, amidst our very challenging times and all that's happened over the last several months with our pandemic, COVID-19, I would say that our economy and our ability to thrive as a people here on Guam has been severely impacted. And I think that we need to take a look at we can do, what I could do as an elected leader to be able to address that and address the issue of up to 34,000 people being without jobs, being unemployed or underemployed. Our number one industry is tourism, and that has been brought to a screeching halt. So there's a lot that needs to be done to get our economy going. And we all know that while I could say I want to focus on health, safety, and education, the three pillars of government, we can't do that if we don't have an economy that's thriving. Because we all know that government works and runs off of the taxes assessed by the people. But if the people are not working and we can't assess those taxes, federal aid is only going to take us so far. And we don't want to rely on that federal aid. We want to be able to thrive for ourselves. So my first initiative is to take a look at that and figure out what we can do to get business, not just small and micro businesses, but business in general. What can we do to get those businesses to get going again, to get them to want to open their businesses up, to get people to work, to support our number one industry, tourism, so that we can continue to function as a people. We can put, people can work, put food on the table, put money in their pocket, and our government continues to run. And we can provide those social services where I am very near and dear regarding public safety. I would love to address those issues of public safety, but if our government comes to a screeching halt because of a lack of an economy, then I think that we're putting the cart before the horse, and we need to address those issues first. And that's what I look to be one of my very first initiatives should I be elected into office.
You mentioned public safety. If you were to chair a committee in the legislature, which committee would that be and why?
Thank you, Kate. And that's another great question. I have to tell you that I think that, or I believe that with my work experience as a police officer, starting at the lowest level, all the way up to being the chief of police, my education in criminal justice and public administration, it makes me a good candidate to chair the Committee on Public Safety. Because I understand what it's like to know what the issues are at the operational level, at the executive level, policy making and implementation. Because I served as the chair for the Guam Peace Officers and Standards Training Commission, and because I served as the chair for the Pacific Island Chiefs of Police, I know the intricacies on law enforcement and public safety operations. So I think that that would make me a very good candidate to chair public safety. And should I get in there and be given that opportunity, I'd like to chair that particular committee.
Jai, how will you ensure better management of government funds so that Guam does not repeat a threat of government shutdown or layoffs? As you mentioned earlier, we do have a stagnated economy. So how would you ensure that we do not have a government shutdown or layoff?
You know, that's a great question, Kate, and I think that's a matter of taking a look at what resources we have available. I think it's a matter of creating synergy and realigning what we have in government so that we can do more with less, without the fear of a government shutdown, without the fear of our classified employees being laid off from work, furloughs or layoffs. So I think it's a matter of looking at those resources and realigning those resources, whether they're personnel resources, whether they're logistical resources or fiscal resources. We need to realign that so that we can get, figuratively speaking, a bigger bang for our buck, so that we can assure ourselves as a people, as a government, that we're not going to shut ourselves down, because we're creating synergy and we're doing more with less. Is that proverbial saying, when you create synergy, it's 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, it equals 3. You're doing more with the little resources that you have, so that there isn't that fear of a government shutdown or a furlough or a layoff. So that's what I would look to do. What can we do to realign that so that we're not creating a situation where we're exactly doing that, shutting our government down or laying our people off. So I think that realignment process is very key, and we need to take a look at that, and we need to be transparent. Transparency, it goes very far with me, and I think that we need to have that level of transparency so that we can be open and honest with each other, because I think that's what the people want, and I think that's how we're going to assure ourselves that we're doing the right thing to be able to prevent those a potential shutdown or potential layoffs.
That dovetails into my next question, actually, which was, what's your stance on transparency and accountability in the government?
Okay, transparency in government is an absolute must. I think that when we deal with, because the government runs off of taxes assessed by the people, money's taken in by the people, and even federal aid coming in, that's all taxpayer dollars coming in. There must be open government. There must be transparent. We must be transparent with ourselves first. We must be able to tell each other that, hey, the right hand is telling the left hand exactly what's going on, and that we're telling our people, ladies and gentlemen, people of Guam, here's what we're doing with your hard-earned tax dollars that are going to run the government. I think that it's an absolute must. Now, I would say that there are caveats to that, and I think one of those caveats is something like a situation involving due process. So if a situation, and I say this from the perspective of being the former chief of police, if a criminal case were to come about, obviously situations like that are confidential in nature, because every person has the right to due process. And if a case could potentially end up in court, we wouldn't want to jeopardize that because of issues involving due process. But aside from that, Kate, there must be transparency in government, especially when it comes to the operations, the management of personnel, logistics, and fiscal resources. We need to be open and honest with each other regarding that, and we need to be open and honest with the people, so that the people can say, yes, I elected you into office, regardless of what seat you have, and that you're doing the right thing for the people of Guam based on what the people want. So I am definitely a very big advocate of transparency in government. And I think that there's more work that can be done in that space, so that we maintain that transparency and we maintain accountability with each other and to the people who put us in office.
Thank you for that. In closing, J.I., what message do you have for the viewers and voters as well?
The message that I have is that, again, we are working through some very challenging times, and that I think that this election is very crucial. It's very critical. And I realize and I understand that we are dealing with a pandemic. We're dealing with a virus that is lethal and it's deadly, and we have to take care of our health. We have to take care of each other. But at the same time, I truly believe that there are mechanisms that can be put in place to mitigate that, and that we do still need to take part in that democratic process called the elections. And I truly believe that elections are one of several instances where the people of Guam, the people of any jurisdiction, have the opportunity to have a say in government. I would encourage people to take part in that democratic process. Have that voice, be that voice, make an informed decision about who they want, who you want to be an elected leader to represent you and your best interest in the decision and the making of policies and the determination and the appropriations of your hard-earned tax dollars. I think that being able to vote, to being able to cast a vote and having a say is critical. And I would encourage those, all our citizens, all our voting citizens, the electorate, to take part in that process and make the most informed decision that you possibly can, so that your interests are represented in the legislature, which again holds all branches of government accountable, so that we're answerable to the people. So that would be my underlying message, is to come out and vote your conscience, make that informed decision, take part of that process, and have that voice in government.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Republican senatorial candidate Joseph J.I. Cruz. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Kate. And if I could just close with this, I would like to, number one, thank you and the folks at the Sorensen Media Group for allowing me to be interviewed on this Coffee with a Candidate, as I have my cup of coffee here. Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank the people of Guam.